morning, friends. My name's Matt Russell, and our topic today is prayer. I know this can be a hard subject for some folks, but let's give it a try anyway. So, prayer and meditation are simply ways we connect with something bigger than ourselves. That might be a goddess or a god or our ancestors, the earth, the spirit of life, our community, or simply the quiet wisdom inside our own heart. One way I like to think about prayer is that it usually fits into two big or categories. One is asking for help, the other is saying thanks. These two types of prayers remind us that it's okay to need help, and it's important to notice the good things happening in our lives. Now, the sharing of joys and sorrows we just did a few moments ago, that is a type of prayer, even though we don't generally use that word for it. When we speak our joys and sorrows aloud, we do something very prayer-like. We're naming what matters most to us. And a joy is often a thank you, and a sorrow is very often asking. We're sharing our feelings and values with our community. Now, meditation is closely connected to prayer, but it works a little differently. If prayer is like talking, then meditation is like listening. Now, imagine you're having a conversation with a really good friend. If you did all of the talking and never listened, well, you'd miss out on an awful lot, and you wouldn't be a very good friend. So meditation gives us a chance to be quiet and still, to notice our breathing, our thoughts, feelings. It helps us listen to what our hearts and minds are trying to tell us. So prayer and meditation are really just, two sides of the same coin. One side is reaching out, sharing our hopes, our problems, saying thank you. The other side is tuning in, paying attention to the calm, caring voice inside us and around us. Now, in our Unitarian Universalist community, we don't all pray or meditate in the same way, and that's okay. We also use our bodies as part of our prayer or meditation, not just words. Our bodies can help us focus, feel calm, or show respect. And there is no one right way to do this. Different bodies, different cultures, all do it in different ways. So prayer and meditation, they can be done while standing or sitting on the floor, sitting in a chair, kneeling, laying flat on the ground, hands together, hands open, hands up, walking slowly, jogging, swimming, doing yoga. It can also be, done holding special objects, like prayer beads or maybe a crystal or my favorite little bear. Yes, that's a gift from my wife and very special to me. Whatever helps you feel at peace and you be still, that can work. What matters most is that we practice being honest, thankful, and open, both when we speak and when we listen. So let me close with a couple of very short prayers from some different faith traditions. So from Buddhism, may all beings be happy, may all beings be peaceful, may all beings be free from suffering. From paganism, earth below me, sky above, thank you for the world I love. Sun and moon and stars so bright, bless my day and bless my night. From Christianity, thank you, God, for this new day, for food and friends and time to play. Amen. And lastly, from our humanist tradition, I am grateful for this day, for my family and friends who I will try to be kind and do my best to make the world more fair. So thank you for listening to me this morning, and give prayer meditation a try, even if it's not something you normally do. And no matter what, stay warm and safe out there, folks.
Thank you, Matt. You're going to hear some of these same themes again in just a moment because great minds tend to think alike. So Good morning, beloveds. First and foremost, I want to let you know that I am home safe from Minneapolis. I managed to get home just as the snow was starting yesterday, and I know that Sarah is home safe as well. I hope you are all able to stay home and warm and safe today. Thank you, all of you, for the support that you gave to Sarah and I as we answered the call for faith leaders to come to Minnesota. It meant so much to both of us to know that we carried with us the blessings and love of the congregation that we served. You will undoubtedly hear more about that experience in the coming days and weeks. I will be processing it a lot, especially as it is a changing situation. But there are a few things that I want to share with you before moving on and talking more about prayer. First, if you are still getting your news primarily from mainstream media like newspapers or the television, please expand your sources. If you are on Facebook or Instagram, I highly recommend following the Reverend Ashley Horan, Horan. She is the Vice President for Programs and Ministries at our Unitarian Universalist Association, and South Minneapolis is her neighborhood. She is sharing real-time information about the situation in Minnesota. If you are not on social media, you can go to the Sahan Journal, and I will put the name of that in the chat, which is a nonprofit newsroom dedicated to reporting for immigrants and communities of color in Minnesota. There are also many, many other folks reporting live from on the ground, but those are two places that you could start. Second, I invite you to begin thinking about getting ready. You're going to see a lot of ways to be in solidarity with Minnesota, both at UUI and in your local community. Minnesota leaders have issued a call for national nonviolent direct action, including peaceful occupations and boycotts. They encourage these actions specifically on key corporations, including Target, Hilton, Enterprise, Home Depot, and Delta, because these corporations are actually supporting ICE in some capacity. ICE agents have been known to gather and regroup in Target parking lots with permission. One action I found particularly brilliant in Minnesota, which I feel like could be relatively easy to organize here. They organized people to go into their Targets and buy a container of salt, like a Morton's salt, just a container of salt, one, and then return it. The return line was hours long, and it mucked up the corporate machinery for a full day. You're also going to hear a lot more about mucking up corporate and institutional machinery, as this is a key way that we can engage in nonviolent action, the way we can slow things down and make things not as efficient. Beloveds, I want you to know that what we did in Minneapolis was not protest. It was bearing witness. The people there are not protesting. They are organizing to protect their communities, their neighbors, from the incursion of a hostile force that is perpetrating violence upon their communities. And their tactics are ones that we can all learn from. And it all starts with knowing your neighbors. Know your neighbors. Get a group text, or even better, a Signal group going with them. Signal is an encrypted messaging system, but you can just even do it over group text. You don't have to like your neighbors, and you don't have to agree with them, but you need to know your neighbors. What we're seeing in Minnesota is that knowing your neighbors, neighbors protecting neighbors, is the key to what is making their resistance effective. Sarah and I will be talking with you about starting neighborhood groups here at UUI. You used to have them. This was a thing many congregations had in the 80s. And these neighborhood groups and being connected to their neighbors is how the folks in Minnesota are able to swarm like a murmuration of starlings. There's not one person or one organization in charge. It is regular people who are connecting and connected to each other. When they see something happening, they put it out to the groups that they are in, and the message gets sent immediately. And if you are not already on the UUI Slack channel, please get on it as soon as you can, as there will be a lot going on there that you won't necessarily see elsewhere. It will be the most effective clearinghouse of communication for this kind of thing at UUI. I also suggest that you get a whistle if you don't already have one, or leave it in your car, or just get a whistle so that when you see something happening, you can make noise. This is something that you can do from your car. And lest you think that you don't need them here in Indianapolis, ICE is here, and ICE is disrupting communities. It's not the scale of Minneapolis, but it is happening here. If you see ICE vehicles or an ICE convoy, and you can look up what they look like, they're actually changing the vehicles they use. So do some research on that. But if you see ICE vehicles, you can stop, roll down your window if you are in your car, and blow your whistle loud and repeatedly to let people know of the danger. And of course, call your public elected officials, but don't rely on them. Please don't forget that back in November, Congress ended a 40-plus day shutdown, the longest in U.S. history, without securing an extension for Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies. Congress just passed a new bipartisan funding bill that includes $3.8 billion in increased detention funding for the Department of Homeland Security. That bill is now in front of the Senate. So call repeatedly, but we cannot rely on them. Because one of the things we chanted in Minnesota was, no one can save us but us. Again, you will hear more about this in the coming weeks, but for now, know that there are actions that you are being asked to take, from preparation to boycotts to mucking up the machinery. And one of the things that I heard this week was that the difference between the people who were involved against the Nazis in Germany and the people who weren't was that no one had asked the ones who didn't get involved. I do not know how true this is, but please know this. You are being asked. There are tangible things that you can do right now from the safety of your home or your car. And all of it, beloveds, is a type of prayer. See that segue that I just made? It works, right? Because protest is a prayer. Marching is a prayer. Showing up when it matters is a prayer. What I engaged in Minnesota very much was embodied prayer. And so even as I was there, I was thinking about you and about the service and about what prayer means to me. Now, I know, as Matt said, for many of us in Unitarian Universalist congregations, prayer has gotten a bad rap. Maybe you left a tradition where prayer felt coercive or manipulative. Maybe you were told your prayers weren't good enough, or that you had to pray a certain way or to a certain God. Maybe the whole concept feels too theistic, too supernatural, too much. And then there's this resistance, right? This discomfort with doing something when we don't fully understand the mechanism. We want to know how it works before we do it. We are the people who scan ahead in the hymnal to see if we agree with the words. But here's the thing. Do we really know how most things work? We didn't always know about mitochondria. We still don't fully understand dark matter. We are constantly learning, constantly figuring things out. Just because we don't know why something is happening doesn't mean it isn't happening. Revelation is not sealed, beloveds. We are still learning, still discovering. So maybe you'll let me try and expand your definition of prayer, because again, as Matt said, great minds think alike. I think we pray far more often than some might realize. When we drop stones during joys and sorrows, that's prayer. When we say we are holding someone in our hearts, that's prayer. When we sing Spirit of Life together, that's prayer. When you hear about a school shooting or a country being bombed and you spontaneously think, oh God, or send good energy towards those suffering, that is all prayer. When you set an intention, when you manifest, when pagans cast spells, when you practice loving kindness meditation, these are all forms of prayer. Anne Lamott says there are really only 3 essential prayers: Help, thanks, and wow. That's it. Help for when we're desperate, thanks for when we're grateful, and wow for when we are in awe. The medieval German mystic Meister Eckhart narrows it down even further. He said, if the only prayer you ever say in your entire life is thank you, it will be enough. Gratitude is prayer. We dither about the difference between prayer and meditation. Some say that prayer is speaking or asking while meditation is listening. Others say the difference is that meditation turns your attention inward while prayer sends something outward. Buddhist loving kindness meditation, where you send compassion to all beings, is that really a meditation or is it a prayer? Maybe it's both. Maybe the lines blur. I think that's okay. A dear friend once told me something that changed my relationship with prayer. She said, I don't need to know if anyone or anything is listening to my prayers. I just know that it makes me feel better when I pray. Let's sit with that for a moment because I think she's naming something really crucial here. The point of prayer isn't just about putting something out there into the universe or to God or to the spirit of life. The point of prayer is also about what it does to us. Prayer changes us. It shifts something in our hearts. It clarifies what we value and it connects us to something larger than ourselves. It reminds us that we are not alone. Whether or not anyone or anything is listening, prayer transforms the one who prays. And here is why prayer matters. What we get into our bodies, what we practice, this is what gets into our bones. There is a saying that there are no atheists in foxholes, and people get prickly about that. I understand that. But I don't think it requires a belief in a deity. I think prayer names something true about, I think that saying names something true about the human condition. When we are in crisis, when we are desperate, when we are terrified, we reach for prayer. We cry out. Even people who haven't prayed in decades find themselves whispering the 23rd Psalm or humming Amazing Grace when they're in the hospital or grieving or afraid. Not because they suddenly believe in the God of their childhood, but because those words got into their bones. And in a crisis, our bones remember. Let me tell you a story. Years ago at General Assembly, and maybe some of you were there, and if so, correct any mistakes that I get in this one. But years ago at General Assembly, our big annual UU gathering, someone had a medical emergency right there on the floor during plenary. Thousands of people in the hall, and everything stopped. The EMTs came rushing in, and as they worked on this person, as they loaded them into the stretcher, as everyone held their breath, not knowing if this person was going to be okay, do you know what happened? Someone started singing Spirit of Life. And then another person joined in, and then another. And within moments, thousands of voices were singing together. They sang it over and over until the EMTs left. Oh, beloveds, that is prayer. No one told them to do that. No one planned it, but they knew what to do because it was in their bones. This is why we sing Spirit of Life every week after joys and sorrows, because we practice holding each other in that sacred song. And when crisis hits, we will reach for what we know. We will reach for that as prayer. This is why it is important for everyone to know that prayer is okay here, that prayer has a place in Unitarian Universalism, that you are allowed, even encouraged, to pray in whatever way makes sense to you. Maybe your prayer is a necklace of beads, something tactile to hold while you breathe. Maybe your prayer is talking to the divine like it was a dear friend. Maybe your prayer is listening to that still small voice inside, or reciting well-worn words and phrases that you learned when you were younger that still bring you comfort. Maybe it's downloading one of those prayer apps or mindfulness apps. Or maybe it's walking the streets with your neighbors, getting to know each other, building connections. The Unitarian Universalist minister Eric Walker Wickstrom wrote a book called Simply Pray, where he invites us to reclaim prayer as a spiritual practice. Not prayer to appease an angry God or to get what we want, but prayer as connection, as grounding, as relationship with the holy. When we can't do it ourselves, and often we can't, not alone, we can ask for help. We can cry out. We can pray. In just a moment, during our special music, I am going to invite us to create a group prayer along the lines of Anne Lamott. I invite you to put your prayers into the chat, but in a very particular way. Please put either help, thanks, or wow at the beginning of your prayer request. So, for example, help, I'm praying for the people of Minneapolis. Or thanks, I was able to go grocery shopping before the snow came. Or wow, the snow on the trees is so peaceful and grounding. You get it? I hope. You can put in as many as you want. Just make sure to tag them help, thanks, or wow. And after the special music is over, I'm going to cut and paste everything that's in the chat into Claude AI, who is going to collate them and write them into a prayer that we will use for our closing words today. I hope that makes sense. However you pray, whatever language you use, whatever form it takes, I invite you to get familiar with prayer. Put it out there. Let it change you. Let it connect you to the spirit of life and love that moves through all things. Pray, sing, cry out, light candles, drop stones, march in the streets, whistle when danger is present, hold each other in our hearts. And somehow, mysteriously, impossibly, it makes a difference. May it be so. May we, together, make it so.